Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us tonight for the Concerts and Festivals webinar with the Student Event Planners Association. We are going to get started in just a few minutes. My name is Aubrey Nowicki. I'm the very proud founder and board director for SEPA. If you are a member of SEPA, we're so excited to have you on the webinar tonight. If you are not a member, equally excited to have you. Feel free to introduce yourselves in the comments on the actual live feed video on YouTube. I'll be monitoring that wall throughout the duration of the webinar. So if you want to submit any questions or again, introduce yourselves, we'll kind of create the camaraderie and community here as we have this webinar tonight. And really our focus and goal for you is that you can kind of figure out whether or not concerts and festivals is a niche that you might like to pursue as a career path, or maybe it's something that you're currently pursuing and want to see how you can move up the ranks or just kind of learn from those who are actively involved in this niche within the industry, gain some insight from their experience. And we do have a diverse panel for this evening, some amazing, amazing individuals that I'll be introducing shortly. So we'll go ahead and get started in just a few minutes. Also note that if you are a member of SEPA, we will be uploading a recording of this webinar to the resources section of our website within 1 week, along with a corresponding quiz that you can take to receive credit for watching this webinar. So be sure to get those credits in for the accreditation program. And again, if you're not a member of SEPA, welcome, welcome, welcome. Feel free, guys, to share the link to this live stream, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. All right. I've been told by a couple individuals that we can hear, so that's awesome. So we are here. All right. I am going to go ahead and again, just wait just a few more minutes. We'll let a few more people join in. I'm seeing some viewers join, so thank you guys for joining us. Super excited. If one of you don't mind writing on the comment wall on YouTube, that would be fantastic. Just make sure that that's working properly for you guys. Oh, I see some. Okay, perfect. Yay! Welcome! We've got someone from Nigeria joining in today. That's awesome. I'm so excited. Welcome. And then Julie, thanks, girl. Appreciate you. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get the party started. So we have an amazing panel for today. I'm going to introduce them one at a time, and then we're going to dive into the questions. And of course, throughout the duration of this webinar, feel free to drop any questions or comments within the live chat on the on the YouTube wall, and I'll be monitoring those simultaneously and fielding those questions for you guys. So keep them coming. First, I want to introduce Clifton, who is the president of the Food and Vine Time Productions. He specializes in the logistical and production side of the lifestyle wine, food, and beer events in the greater Houston, Texas area. So super excited to have him on the webinar tonight, and he will elaborate in just a little bit about his background as well as it relates to different festivals and events. We also have on the line Monique, and she is the events director with Carter's Biz Cafe. She is a skilled global events specialist with over 25 years of seamlessly planning and executing both domestic and international high-touch corporate events. She's traveled to over 65 countries, which is incredible. Look forward to hearing about that. And this year, she also operated the second annual North Bay Art and Film Festival in Benicia, California, Benicia, California, which I'm also intrigued to hear more about. I've never heard of Benicia, California. We were talking about that just prior to the call. And then we also have Michael on the call tonight, who is an independent consultant, which I look forward to hearing more about. And he spent the last 6 years growing brand ambassadorship for Firefly Music Festival. He's curated fan programs designed to grow fan engagement and brand awareness in an increasingly competitive music festival landscape. And I know many of our members are interested in concerts and festivals and that side of the industry. So really intrigued to learn from our panelists tonight. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. It's a pleasure to have you all. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the questions. We've got some lists of questions, and the conversations are going on. Thank you guys so much. Keep that coming. I don't know where to start. Let's start with a question for Michael on what are the ways you utilize social media engagement with attendees?
Hi. Well, first of all, thanks for having me tonight. It's really an honor to be here. Really excited. I was looking forward to talking to everybody. getting to meet the future event planners of the world. So, but to dive right in, yeah, and I guess address that. I think in today's world, social media plays such a huge part of what we do. Um, any festival that doesn't, I think, capture that as a resource is obviously missing out. But and I think everyone does. But some ways that we do it. First and foremost, social media. The normal social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. These sorts of things. We use them heavily as a communication tool out to our fans, just because of how well you can do it, how quickly. So primarily as a communication tool. We've also used them for quite a few of other things as well. So if we have an initiative where we're trying to get fans to maybe do a meetup, it's really good. You can strategically use hashtags. You can strategically use all kinds of things that everyone can access easily, I guess, for lack of a better term. I'm don't consider myself a social media aficionado, so to speak, but we do use it pretty heavily. The thing as well, we've been able to use it for contests. So with fan engagement, especially where a music festival is concerned, you want to have things that are going to get people out and moving around. So one of the coolest things that I think that we do is our Zoom contest. Each year we do a contest done via Twitter. We're using a hashtag where we basically hide tickets to our festival all up and down the East Coast, and they're in different market cities. We use a map that shows up on the screen, whether it's on your mobile device or on your laptop, tablet, what have you. And the longer or more that we receive this hashtag on social media outlets like Twitter and Instagram, the more the map zooms in to a physical location where we actually have a brand ambassador, or what we call a friend of Firefly, standing by with 2 physical tickets, and you keep putting that hashtag out there. You watch the map zoom again. So it becomes really sort of frantic. You basically have a scavenger hunt of people running all over the East Coast trying to find these tickets that are where this person is. So it's a really, social media obviously is a huge, the biggest part of that, I think, arguably. So that's just one example. But like I said, I think first and foremost, fan engagement, fan communication is the biggest key there. So we can communicate things out to people, real time, and if it's something urgent like let's say a pre-sale, we're able to do that. So so yeah, I think communication is the biggest thing.
That's awesome. And feel free, Clifton or Monique, if you guys want to jump in on that as well. I know, or I assume in this day and age, that FOMO is something that might be capitalized on when promoting concerts and festivals. Is that something that you're starting to see the trend towards, or that fear of missing out? Clifton, I think you're muted right now. I'm muted. Not yet. One of those technical difficulties. Is it, or did I mute you by accident? Hold on. No, I didn't. And it won't let me unmute you either. All right, well, we will get back to that question. If you can figure out how to unmute your line, definitely. One of the questions that we had was, how are the overall logistics between a concert or festival comparable to a corporate event, or how are they different? Monique, do you want to jump in on that question?
Sure. And like Michael, I'm delighted to be here and see your bright shining face and everyone else that's on your shoulders coming up. A lot of it is formula as far as organizing your vendors and suppliers, making sure you have trusted partners that you've worked with, that you can trust, and creating a timeline so not only you and your team, but of course your vendors and suppliers can keep on track. So there are a lot of the operational logistical parts that are the same. For me, and I know I explained earlier in the first correspondence, this was only my first time managing a festival. So Michael and Clifton, I'm sure I'd learn a lot by your side. And Benicia is a very small town too. So it was an interesting adventure in trying to attract new fans to a function that's only been around for the 1 year previous. So I'm right there with you all in learning more about this.
Fantastic. You got to start somewhere. So I think that's awesome. And having someone who has as much experience as you have doing events within the event industry and kind of transitioning into festivals specifically, I think is awesome.
Thank you.
Kind of along those same lines of engagement, what have you found to be the most effective when it comes to having attendees be highly engaged at the concert and festival itself? Michael or Monique?
Michael, why don't you go ahead, since I have limited experience so far.
Sure, that's no problem. Yeah, I think I can speak to that. As far as the live event itself, when we have when we're on site, the planning and preparation that goes into it. I think I had mentioned this before. We really try to condition our fans to be. We try to be ready as organizers, and the literally thousands of moving parts that go into planning a music festival. We try to, we have to have, our artists have to be ready. Our infrastructure has to be ready. Vendors have to be ready, as Monique was saying. And so all those things together, alongside of the events that we've planned for, or the supporting events that we've planned for our fans leading up to the festival, we really use that as a means of, throughout the year, conditioning our fans to be as ready for the festival as a fan as we are as an organizer. So, we try to get them in the right frame of mind. Obviously, advertising is what it is, but I don't think it's the same as actually engaging your fan base. And I hate to use the word customers, because let's face it, we're in a fun industry. We put on parties and festivals and that kind of thing for a living. I don't like to use the word customer. But we are, in a sense, conditioning our customer to be ready to have that mindset for when they're on site. So once they're on site, it really does make our jobs easier. I think it could be argued that really it's the artists who make the festival, but it's really not. It's the fans. I think any artist will tell you that. You can put Paul McCartney on a stage, but without 90,000 screaming fans there to see him and to really make that moment what it is, you don't have a festival. So, and I hope I'm answering this correctly, but like I said, as far as on site, you want to have your fans prepared, but also you want to make their festival experience, I guess, it has to be an escape for them. So you try to build your infrastructure, you try to build activities that you make available to your fans, so as if they're sort of walking through a bubble. Once they come through our gates, their jobs, their worries go behind them. So we try to create sort of an escape for them. For that one weekend, you don't have to worry about getting up in time to take the dog out or anything like that. Your only concern is to have as much fun as you can and see as much music as you can. So as I said, I think by preparing them ahead of time, it gets them in that mindset to not worry about anything but having fun. And again, it makes them a good fan for us. So I hope that makes sense.
What Michael was saying too, in picking your on-site staff is so critical, because they are a reflection of your team and all the efforts going there, and that you do have fun and engaging people that can proactively help those attendees and make sure they're having fun. And yes, they need to know where the restrooms are and the food and drink and first aid, in a really low-tech way, that we helped some of the attendees interact with the filmmakers, because some of them were new filmmakers and of course not very well known. Just having the filmmaker ribbon on their badge, and then also the name of their film, so that was a way to engage with somebody and, oh yes, just saw your film, and have those questions, and that one-on-one interface is so fun.
Great answers to that. Definitely. We had a question from Haley Johnson. Thank you, Haley. And she said, which social media platform, and I think she's saying which specifically, do you find to be the most useful and effective in event planning for festivals, concerts, or corporate events? Is there one that kind of outweighs the others?
I would tend to say Facebook for the majority of our attendees. I think it's from the 35 to 55 age range there, so that might skew differently for a younger crowd.
I would tend to agree with that, to be honest. And I think, I mean, our key demographic for our festival is generally college age to roughly 24. That's for the most part. However, we mix up our musical genres so that it can appeal to a lot of people. But I think Facebook probably would be the crown jewel for us as far as social media. And then the younger generation or the newer generation, I should say, of social media users gravitate towards Twitter and Instagram, and obviously Snapchat is huge. But Facebook really does have a great, I guess, it's a great platform in that you can plan events from it. It's you can see different media from it very easily as far as pictures and videos, that sort of thing. But so yeah, I mean, we run a lot of our festival through Facebook. Even as far as fan communication on up to obviously our lineup release. It does coincide with all the others, but I would definitely agree with Monique. I think it's probably the one that is the strongest.
That's surprising. I'm intrigued by that. I'm getting some background fit. There we go. I wanted to transition real quick. You were just touching on, Monique, the fact about having the right staff at your particular events. And I think, when you think about Disney and their concept of having cast members as part of their parks and kind of creating this entire experience. One of the things I wanted to talk about was, along with kind of creating that environment, something that's relevant to current world day, is how do now safety and contingency plans play a role in the coordination of concerts and festivals?
It's an excellent point, and it's becoming more and more on the radar for all planners for any scale of event. And for us, on a very smaller scale, just keeping in touch with the police department so that they are aware of our plans, as well as the phone tree of communication, escalation. Also, the fire department was aware of our function and the timing. Of course, you have on-site security, knowing where the first aid kit, and then properly briefing your brand ambassadors, your on-site staff, that this is the policy. Everybody is aware. If you see something, let us know. So it's definitely more and more on everybody's radar, and I think not just for the planners, but also attendees. I think it's more on their mind as well. I think a lot more people are paying attention to where their exits, etc., things of that nature.
That is great. And we're getting questions. I'm getting them from text messages, I'm getting them from all angles. So this is awesome. Like, which one do I go with next? Emily had just messaged. She said, what's one of the most underrated areas of planning a festival that's one of the key components of a festival? Underrated, I'm guessing, like something that may be overlooked sometimes that really is a key component.
Gosh.
I might have I guess just from what I've seen during our planning meetings, for Firefly, because Firefly is we are a large scale festival. I think some of the things that a lot of the ancillary things that a fan, and actually they're things that we sort of do want a fan to kind of not really have to think about. So it's done on purpose. But something that Monique had mentioned earlier, you talk about things like vendors. A lot of the behind the scenes things that they're not things that someone would normally think of would go into as all the moving parts to a festival. When you look at things like the amount of insurance that's involved, down to supply chains and just different supplies that you would need to order for, whether it be a food vendor or infrastructure, like putting up the amount of tents and that sort of thing. Permits, just it's endless. I mean, we have ours at Dover Speedway every year, our festival, or it's right across the street from Dover Speedway. So just the sheer amount of permits and building, it's endless, literally. I don't get heavily involved in it, but I do know, I'm very close to the people who do, and I see how.
I know, right?
Yeah, so you would know, and I see what they go through. It's basically a sea of hoops to jump through, and you really just never stop. And that might be something I think that Monique may be able to speak to even more. As I said, it's not generally my area, but I think she would probably agree that it's definitely underappreciated.
Yes, and it's so true that you're going to the same place, and you kind of know what to expect in the destination. We found out from one of our beverage providers that our particular city, as far as the police department, had way more constraints that they had to jump through. And that just adds to the stress. The week before, you're not wanting to have all these new fires come up, and you're jumping through those. The ABC alcohol license as well. There's very specific things. If it's a bar, if it's a catering service, if it's a venue, and trying to keep up with those kind of things. Yeah, all the behind the scenes info that those attendees have no clue what goes into it.
It just magically, like elves, it appears. And I see Clifton nodding his head. Unfortunately, we can't get the audio to work. I'm so sorry, but I'm sure that, no, we can't hear you. But I'm sure, with his background doing with food and wine, that's like, or just alcohol in general, is a huge component of orchestrating these events for sure. Michelle had asked, and I know Emily, sorry, just to jump back, will appreciate both of those answers. She works for a rental company here in Houston, so she does all the tents and the tables and all that kind of, so I know she knows all about that. Would agree with you guys, kind of overlooked sometimes. Michelle Chavez had a question. She said, how do you anticipate and traffic flow throughout a festival area and track it to improve upon year after year?
I can actually, if you want, I'd be happy to jump in with that one with kind of an unfortunate story, but one that we definitely learned from with our festival. I've been lucky enough to have been with our festival with Firefly since its inception, and Dover Speedway, where we have our festival, both the festival grounds as well as our camping areas, is used to large crowds. It's used to twice a year the NASCAR crowd comes in, and they're a gigantic audience. It's huge. So when we first had our festival started in 2012, we on average had about 38,000 people a day, which we're over 100,000 a day now.
Wow.
So that path sort of took there were peaks and valleys. When we grew our festival in 2013, the second year of the festival, it could be argued that it may have grown a little too fast. We did have, a historic traffic jam. I'll put it that way. And generally, when you think historic, it's a good thing, but it was pretty bad. We had people, campers who were waiting to check into camping in traffic jams for literally 7 hours.
Oh my.
Missing large amounts of music, that sort of thing. So I think when you're talking about an event, or whether it be a music festival or what have you, when you're talking about something that is an emerging, a growing festival, you're not established really yet. You're never really going to quite know what to expect. We thought we knew. We had DelDOT, Delaware Department of Transportation, helping us. We were going based on the information that we had, which was from the NASCAR experience. When NASCAR would come in, they knew what to expect. Firefly was a whole different scenario because we had people coming in from different directions that NASCAR normally didn't have. We had had campers going to one area and festival goers going to another area. So the most you can really do is learn from it. There was a lot of apologizing that year. I remember it like it was yesterday. People who did miss quite a bit of music. As a result, we've changed our festival altogether. We're now a 4-day festival where we didn't used to be. So I guess to answer the question, as far as traffic and crowd movement within the festival itself, you get better at it as you start to build out your infrastructure, which we've done. We've, with the help of Dover, the city of Dover, we've cleared a lot of land, build out permanent infrastructure. It's at the Woodlands where our festival's held, but it was a lot of trial and error, and all you can really do is try to break the least amount of eggs along the way as you can. I guess if that means anything.
Totally. And hey, Clifton, I think we can hear you. I'm also getting some feedback on your line.
Oh, I guess that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, totally. Can you maybe try and turn down the volume on your computer? Because we're hearing
it's muted.
Oh, it is muted. Not you. I think it's us hearing ourselves through that line. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but the only line I have available is the computer's off.
Okay, never mind. And actually, it's not bad right now. You're fine. Did you want to jump in? I know you've been patiently waiting on the sidelines. Did you want to jump in?
I want to jump back. Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Sure.
I want to go back just a little bit because
for sure.
The question about what can sneak up on you that if you don't keep your eye on the ball, and that's tear down when the festival's over.
Oh yeah.
It is not something that anybody wants to do. If you're using people that have been there from setup all the way through the festival, when that festival's over, you're exposed to the fact that you could have one big mess and lose control of organization if you don't plan the teardown. It's just as important as the setup of the event. And I've learned that over the years, especially since we deal so much with alcohol, that I bring in an entirely fresh crew and get all the people who've done the fun stuff out of the way. Otherwise,
you know what you mean.
It cannot be pretty if you don't plan the teardown properly. I can tell you that. So
that's a totally.
I just wanted to add that back in, and then dealing with alcohol is a complete. I could take 6 hours to talk about that, especially in the state of Texas. But that's something you really have to watch. That and permits. Okay, I'm caught up now.
You're hysterical. Well, I'm so glad to have you on. Emily's been messaging me. She's like, we can't hear him. They can hear you. I'm seeing the feedback on the line. So Danielle Swafford, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. She said, what is the biggest piece of advice do they have for upcoming recreation/event management/planning professionals? Basically, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to get into this industry?
What I would give them is just take an internship somewhere and learn what the business is like, because it looks great on paper. Like, I'm the opposite. I never graduated from college. I got into the business by accident, and I've been in it for 15 years, and I've done the School of Hard Knocks thing. And like, I'm ready to talk to Michael more about the fan engagement stuff, because I know, and I'm old. I was excited when I got a pager. Okay.
Yes.
So that's all new to me, and I'm having to spend too much money hiring PR firms or so-and-so to do that when I could do it internally if I had the staff to do it, if I knew how to do it, and I don't. So I'm learning that all the time. So I don't know, it's just...
I'm curious to ask Clifton and Michael, you were making me think of this, Clifton, and when you said tear down, how about the whole food waste and composting situation? Have you integrated that into your festivals, or is it mandated in the areas that you're at?
It depends. Like, particularly in my case, we do 9 different festivals. So they're all different. They're all different demographics, so forth and so on.
I think the audio was cutting out there for a second.
Again?
Mm-hmm.
How about now, Michael? No.
I'm hearing him perfectly. Can you guys comment real quick on the YouTube line and let me know if you guys can hear Clifton okay? Clifton, keep talking for now.
Okay. It really depends upon the festival itself, but as far as food waste goes, we'll have, like in Houston, there's an organization called Second Servings, and they'll come in 15 minutes before the event is over and take all the extra food to shelters and to feed people.
That's
so
fabulous.
we do that a lot. We do some recycling. Again, it depends on what area that we're working in. So we try. It's very difficult, again, because we deal not 100%, but very heavily in alcohol, and people forget what they're doing when they're.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So
I can definitely speak to that.
Yeah, things tend to go. You have to have a lot of control and a lot of planning, and then you have to have people who will keep them in line. Even the volunteers, or like I've shifted my entire system now. I'll have an event where I'll have to have 130 people pouring wine.
Mm-hmm.
They used to be all volunteers. Now they're all paid staff because I can control. Things have changed in 15 years. It's not like it used to be. Some for the better, some not so much.
We've really, with our festival, have shifted a lot too. Same, just like you're mentioning. During cleanup, cleanup after a 4-day outdoor music festival is a feat within itself. We have thousands of campers. Roughly 90 to 100,000 people a day visit our festival. So, one of the biggest things, we use programs like Code Purple, which is an outfit that comes in, and because of the sheer amount of things that are left behind by people, they take camping equipment, coolers, lawn furniture, what have you. That all gets donated to the homeless because of outfits like Code Purple, and we're heavily involved with them. In addition, one of our biggest things, and one of the reasons why we spend so much on the cleanup, is because it's big picture stuff. So if you ever looked at, you can find it anywhere on Google or YouTube, what the festival grounds look like after a music festival. It's pretty horrific. I'm not going to lie, it's horrific. So it all really it sort of spills over into your PR. You really want to stay in the public's good graces. So you want to be known as a festival who is conscious of it. This past year, we had a big push towards people really the festival grounds picking up trash, that sort of thing. Our festival was probably one of the cleanest festivals you're going to see, just because of getting people involved. You want people who take an active interest in having a clean environment, because you can concentrate more on having a good time if you're not dodging plastic bottles or what have you. So but yeah, we really spend a lot of resources on that, on the after cleanup, because we want to be seen as as a festival who doesn't come in and trashes city of Dover and then leaves. So and like I said, there's a downstream effect to that, which is more ticket sales and everything else. Oh, you're muted.
Oh, might help if I unmute myself. Everybody heard everything you said, by the way, Clifton. They were all commenting. So thank you guys to everyone who is on the line asking questions. Rima from Nigeria had asked, in building structures, how do you manage the challenge with restrooms? I think that's a great question. No one wants to take the restroom.
That should go to Michael, I think, because he's going to have the most experience in that area.
I can definitely speak to that. We really do have a pretty impressive sea of portable toilets at our festival, spread out throughout our camping areas. So our festival grounds and camping areas sit on roughly 250 acres of land. It's a massive land area. So we've really been honed our skills over the years at getting to know expected amount of attendees based on ticket sales, and weigh that against what we've seen as an effective number of portable toilets. We do also utilize a lot of toilet trailers. So for different ticket packages that you might have, whether it be VIP or super VIP, access to air-conditioned trailers. So they pay a higher price for that, so that we can buy a nicer facility. Yeah, and I think the other thing too is just like anything else, we have resources to fall back on. There were other music festivals around before us, and those numbers are out there. And if you don't go out and take advantage of that data, and then you're really sort of you're not doing yourself much of a favor. So we've been really lucky since we came along in 2012 that we had some data to fall back on about what we can expect as far as that. Now, just like the parking and traffic situation, same thing. There's been years where you try to keep up with the cleaning and maintenance of said toilets, because you have many thousands of people on site for 4 solid days. So so it was a lot of trial and error, but I think we've got it down pat at this point.
It's a shitty job, but someone's got to do it. Basically.
I didn't want to say that. I was going to leave that more to you, but
I can say it. I'll say it for you guys. So
thank you.
I think kind of a burning question segueing along that line is, when you guys heard about the Fry Festival or Fire Fest, whatever it's called, FYRE Festival, what were your initial thoughts, and how do you think the outcome or aftermath will affect festivals and concerts moving forward?
I'll go first on that one.
Okay, go.
It's not the genre of festival that I do, but I think it was a one-off. People laugh at it and said, "There's one dumb that didn't know what he was doing. He had more money than he knew what to do with and screwed up." I don't think it'll affect anything personally. What do y'all think about that? I
would agree. It's a one-off kind of pie-in-the-sky dream that they had, and of course it's great to have dreams, and as many of us know, anything in the Caribbean can be very difficult, and if you don't have the infrastructure and your governmental support, you wanting to come in and produce a festival, it's just not going to happen. So they found out the hard way.
I would agree wholeheartedly. As someone who works in festivals, I think that Ja Rule, I guess, was the artist who put that together. I think he was relying very heavily on his celebrity, and maybe did not take the time to surround himself with people who know festivals. He might know music, but that doesn't make you a aficionado or an expert on festivals. So I think he was relying very heavily on that. But I think as far as the festival landscape, whether you're talking about music festivals or any other kind of festival, attendees want to feel taken care of. They want to feel safe. They want to feel, secure.
Pampered.
Well, not even just pampered, but I think security. Like they want to feel like they're in good hands with people who know what they're doing. And I think that with all the things that went wrong at Fire Festival, coupled with the fact that you had inexperienced organizers, it compounded the problem. And but I think a lot of your average savvy festival goer, whether it be music festivals or anything else, they know when they're in a good situation and they're not. And I think they thought they were when they bought their tickets. But like you mentioned, the Caribbean, that's a tricky business. One I wouldn't want to get involved in.
Completely. And great answer to that question. Angela is looping back around, kind of speaking to that point of wanting to feel secure and safe. And I think, again, we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. And Clifton, I wanted to see if you had anything to add to, Angela had asked a question. Can you talk about the importance of security during your events and the steps you take to try to ensure the safety of your attendees? And of course, Clifton, you're dealing with alcohol on top of just the event itself. So are there any particular measures that you take?
Training. That's why we moved away from volunteers to go to paid servers, because they're trained already. As far as police or county professionals on site, make sure you have them to back you up. I try personally, if we get into a situation where somebody's over indulged, which means they were overserved, is number one, to find out how that happened. But number two, to approach that person first before I just send a security officer over there. And then if there is an issue and they're obviously overserved, bring and they give me any trouble not wanting to take Uber or Lyft home and come back and get their car later, if indeed they had a car there, then I bring the police force in and make sure that that happens. But that's changed a lot. Again, a lot of it has changed. Man, 15 years ago when I started, it was plus I moved here from New Orleans. It was a free-for-all back in the old days. And it's not that way anymore. One bad incident, you could be out of business. So you do whatever you can do to decrease your liability. Then if something does happen, you can prove that you've done the steps that you need to do to keep that event from happening, that bad event from happening, and it lowers your liability in the situation.
Keeping a cool head, it sounds like.
Cool head and take the right steps. I mean, like we personally, like every event we have, to get a drink, you've got to have a wristband on, and that wristband means that you've already been ID'd, carded, and know that there's some festivals in town that send out their wristbands to their sponsors in packages. They could give them to a baby. I mean, there's no control at all. If they ever have an issue, they're going to be their liability is very much higher than mine's going to be when I've checked everybody who's drinking. Right. So it's just so important in today's world to do that. And now with the advent of Uber and Lyft, it really helps that people don't have a resistance. If you call them a taxi before, they had a resistance to it. Oh, let's just take Uber. Okay.
So I would agree with that.
That's huge difference.
One of the first things that Clifton had mentioned was training. Training is paramount with a festival because, whether you're talking about safety or you're talking about just guest, convenience. One of the things that you'll hear the most from guests, and I'm out in our fan community every day. And one of the things you hear the most is, as far as our ability to serve our guests is they'll say, okay, well, I got this answer from this person in the parking area. Another person gave me this answer. And what I've learned over the years is if you give someone 5 different answers and they're all the same, you can give them the answer that they don't want. They don't care. As long as they're getting the same answer from everybody, they feel like they're secure. Then they're okay with that. It might not be what they wanted to hear, but at least they knew that we were all on the same page. And for them, that's good enough. So yeah, training I think is definitely key. As far as alcohol, we have major alcohol vendors that we're sponsored with Bud Light. We have Dogfish Head Ale. It has an on-site brewery at our festival. We take very careful measures because of the liability and what's at stake. We're not going to get Paul McCartney to come back and play our festival again if we get sued by an 18-year-old who got overserved or served at all. So when those starts, you try to learn from those things before they become problems. Just because of the amount that's at stake. We have many millions of dollars invested in our festival, so we have to protect it. But yeah, I'll always go back to what Clifton said, which is training. Everybody has to be even overtrained. So,
Michael, for your events, with the amount of tens of thousands of people that you have, do you sometimes engage having a standby ambulance?
Oh, absolutely. So Dover Police Department, we have a wonderful relationship with Dover Police. We have off-duty police officers who look forward to our festival every year, who can't wait to work Firefly. So they're there, they're enthusiastic, they are amazing with our fans and our guests. But yeah, as far as EMTs and just access to medical attention, it is our medical tents that are on site. I joke about it sometimes, but I almost think that you could replace a lung in one of our first aid tents because we're that good. You know, I've been in there, thankfully not for anything major, but you know, you can go in there from a sunburn to someone who drank too much to someone who has, you know, anaphylactic shock, and there's someone there who could take care of you. Because we have a lot of people who volunteer to, you know, medical professionals who volunteer even who want to work our festival. And so yeah, you know, we don't mess around when it comes to access to medical attention.
That's amazing. Michelle, kind of segueing that same kind of topic, just to make sure that I get her question answered, and I think that we touched on it. She said, what is the biggest challenge with recruiting, training, and keeping volunteers or even the employees engaged throughout the entire process?
Well, as a newbie, I can jump in and say I used signup.com, and I don't know what platform, Clifton and Michael, if you're familiar with that. It's a platform specifically for organizing volunteers. You know, I recruited 55 volunteers for our function. It was a 2-day function, and I knew a lot of these people, so I would see some of them, but just sending like a weekly email reminder telling them what was happening, to reference our Facebook and have them also become kind of like a brand ambassador to help build the community, and making sure they got a proper briefing. Everyone wants to be helpful and wants to know what's happening. So I'm hoping they'll come back next year. You can ask me next time.
And Michael, is there anything that you're doing to incentivize these police officers or these medics who are so excited to work every year? Is there like donuts or what's going on? What are you giving them?
I mean, they off-duty police, they're actually have an agreement with their barracks or with their local department that they're allowed to basically work off the clock. They get paid, but also, I mean, I guess speaking back to the you know, the volunteers. You know, we've actually said we grew our volunteer program organically because we realized from, you know, polling our fans and finding out what they want that we were able to figure out that we had something that they wanted, which was they want to be able to work at a music festival and not only get paid for it, but you know, attend for free. You know, we feed them. They get to camp for 4 days. So as far as incentivizing, you know, like it's kind of like if you have to work, why not work at a music festival? You know, especially if you're really into music festivals. So you know, we've grown our and we put a name to our program too. So I think that helps with fans who really want to know. So they say, oh well, when they think Firefly Music Festival, they're like, oh well, I want to volunteer, I want to work there. How do I do it? We say, oh well, you want to email someone over at fan staff, and that's just what we've named our program, just to put I guess, an identity to it. And we've been able to have a very successful program every year.
That's awesome. So we got another question via text. Emily said, how do you know when your location is the right or wrong location? What are your deciding factors? Kind of completely shifting gears. Clifton, do you have any input on that?
I'm sorry, it's not scientific. My gut.
Your gut? Okay. Old school.
Sorry.
It's
Sorry,
like,
but that's all I got for you.
It's interesting to you.
All right.
I can
got for you.
Go for it.
If you look, the very first who's no longer with the company, but Greg Bostrom, who was the director of Firefly Music Festival for most of its short life in 6 years, he actually tells a story in an interview it's available on YouTube about how they found Dover as a location for a music festival, because there's so many considerations when you say we want to put on a huge music festival. There's so many things you have to look into, you know, the surrounding community and if it's even available. So when they found Dover Speedway and the adjacent the Woodlands, which is where our festival really is, you know, they talk about what an amazing find that was and how it fit all their requirements and everything. Again, I actually love watching that video just because of the excitement, you know. But I mean, as far as scouting, I think I guess there's a checklist of things that you have to go through and try to find as many of those things, mark off as many of the things as you need as you can. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm posing to everybody who's watching the live stream right now. We've got just 10 minutes and we do need to do a wrap up. So if you've got any additional burning questions, text me, message me, put it on the wall. I'm feeding all of those or fielding all of those. Let's talk real quick. Clifton, you mentioned this a couple times over indirectly, but how have concerts and festivals evolved throughout the generations, and where do we see this progressing moving into, you know, the next 20 years?
I can speak to my side. I don't do music, but on what I do, they're becoming more and more professional. And if you don't do it professionally, you're out of business. It's happened here in Houston a couple of times, actually, to people who came in too big, too fast, and they didn't have the experience. And that's why I go all the way back to earlier, get an internship. I mean, I don't care what you're doing. Get out there and find out if you have the gene to do a festival. Not everybody can do it. There's an immense amount of stress. There's an immense amount of things you need to know if you're going to run it. And not everybody can do that, which is okay. But you can still work within that festival organization. But if you want to ever own and run a festival, get in there and find out, because it's different. I mean, I've never worked for anybody in my whole life, and I've done a lot of things. And this is definitely the most fun and the hardest thing I've ever done. And I'm 66 years old and don't see stopping. I love it because I've got the gene. But you've got to have the gene to do it.
I love that. I love that. We've got all the questions are coming in now. Quenisha had said, and sorry, we're just going to jump everywhere. No, she said, how does weather play a role in your concerts or festivals? How do you plan for backups? Great
You
question.
don't let it rain. It's
I can talk
simple.
about this. I can talk about this for 2 hours straight. As a festival as large as ours, back in 2015, we actually had to evacuate 85,000 people.
Oh my God.
For a storm that came through, high winds. When you have 85,000 people waiting for a headliner to take the stage at 10 o'clock at night, and then you have to just pull the plug on everything. That wasn't a decision we made in 15 minutes. It started probably about 10 o'clock that morning.
Right.
When you are graded on how well you evacuated 85,000 people, about 82,000 of them are going to say that you did a really terrible job. But it's because we didn't get to practice. So, you know, and we try to tell them we didn't get a practice run. But weather is, you know, we've had years where rain and mud were issues. We've had other years where people were getting sick because of the lack of rain and there was a lot of dust. You know, when 90,000 people walk across one stretch of grass, that grass is going to be gone in a matter of 2 days if there's no rain. It turns into dust, it gets pulverized and turns into dust, and then the wind blows it and you inhale it, and then everybody's sick. So you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. You know, we kind of jokingly, one of my things as far as fan engagement is to really sort of, I guess, pose questions to the fan base, like, what would you rather have? You know, 8 inches of mud or no rain all weekend? And everyone's very passionate about what they want. So you just really just try to put it out there to say, hey, you know, whatever Mother Nature throws at us, we're going to try and be as prepared as possible. Number one thing is always going to be your safety as a fan. You're our livelihood and you're our biggest concern. So there were people that weren't happy with our decision that night to evacuate. And, you know, all you can really do is explain to them there's so much at stake. You know, I think there's a comedian that says it's not that the wind is blowing, it's what it's blowing. So for one of our fans to get hit with a large piece of our infrastructure would never be good. And you just try to gently explain that to them. But the weather is tough. I can't speak for how you guys have to deal with it, but it's about the same.
I'll interject into that, in that first thing you have to know about the weather is you can't do a damn thing about it. It's going to happen. And we just are coming through that on our side right now in Houston. We had Harvey. And we've done 7 events, 7 festivals in the last 6 weeks because we had to move things. And we only have a full-time staff of 5 people, and we're done. With the last one we have, We actually had to move on to Thanksgiving weekend, and then we're finished for until next April. So everybody's tugging. But that's what I meant about the gene. You've got to go, oh my God, we just moved out of a festival unloaded the truck on Tuesday, and we got to load again on Thursday. It's hard, but it's fun, you know.
Right. And I know.
So but the thing about the weather is, you can plan for it, but first off, never look at the weather forecast until you're 3 days away, because they don't know what they're talking about even 3 hours away.
True.
So don't be one of these, just, it's going to happen. So let's go. Just whatever it is, you've got to deal with it.
In California, it's all about the earthquakes. Everybody probably remembers in 1989 when we had the World Series, right?
That's right. You're right.
And fires.
It's always something.
We had a conference that was supposed to be in Napa not too long ago that got canceled because of the fire. So we're going to end on Julie's question. Julie had said, and I'm going to tweak it a little bit. She had said, because we always love the fails, the hashtag fails. She said, what has been your worst experience or moment? But if you want to, if you want to talk about a fail moment, you can talk about a fail moment. If you choose to do one that was more inspiring or what have you, that you can go either way. So Clifton, you want to kick us off for the?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'll definitely go for the fail because it's important.
Okay.
We were the first people there because of regulations in Houston. It used to be very difficult to have a food truck festival. So we did the first food truck festival in Houston, and it was Saturday and Sunday, 2 days. And it was a nightmare because I didn't, who knew the formula? How many people per truck? I know all this now, but I didn't know it then. We totally oversold it. Oh. And it just got, on Saturday, brutally hammered on social media. But fortunately, we stopped sales for Saturday about 3 o'clock, when we saw we had screwed the pooch, so to speak. And we had exactly the right amount. So out of that failure on Saturday came the lesson of exactly what the formula was and how many people per truck you need. And so we're able to now know. In other words, what I'm trying to say is it was an epic fail on Saturday. It worked on Sunday, but something very good came out of it. We learned the formula of attendees to truck. Mm-hmm. But I still remember.
That with us?
I know, right?
No. 125. There you go. I shared it with you.
Oh gosh. Okay, Monique, do you want to share yours? And it doesn't necessarily have to be festival. I know that you've only done this going into the second year, but maybe an event that stands out to you. I know this is such a hard. I always blank whenever people ask me this kind of question.
Well, relying on a friend to bring me to the airport one time, and I missed my flight to advance the program in Hawaii. And very embarrassingly, I had to text my client who was sitting on the plane that something's come up. Thankfully, the rest of my team, I trusted, they had worked with him, and I took the next flight. But yeah, that person never took me to the airport again.
All right, Michael, grand finale.
I don't know about that. Or the Hindenburg. I don't know, however you want to think of it. So, I mean, our festival, over the course of the 6 years that we've been going at it, we've had what I think some people would argue are fails. One of the first ones that we had was what I refer to as the ticket crash of 2014. And, I have a T-shirt that says I survived it. So, we were trying to sell tickets. Our servers were crashing every 5 minutes. And so, my job as fan engagement was to go online and sort of quell the masses and try to calm people down, throw some humor in there, and say, hey, technology, huh? How about that? How about that internet? All those cool things. And we got through it. We learned from it. We increased bandwidth, and we did all the things that you need to do to have a smooth service. But I think with fails. Just like Clifton was saying, you don't want them to be your legacy. So, if do have a fail, don't look at it as a fail, but look at it as an opportunity. You know, you learned from it, and you got really good at one thing because you failed at it before. It's just like in life, I think. But yeah, so I think if you go back through our Facebook page, you can go back to 2014, and you'll hear some of the funniest things I've ever read on the internet were from that day. Just about, you know, who runs your servers? Are they run from the back of a Walmart to, you know, it's just it was great. You know, by the end of the day, we were delirious from being stressed out that we laughed our asses off, so it was good.
I love it. I love it. And we do still have other questions coming in. So for those who have participated on today's live stream, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been a great conversation in the live chat. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. What I would recommend, if it's okay with Clifton, Michael, and Monique, that we have released and actually hyperlinked their name to their LinkedIn profile on our website, on our Facebook, everywhere, and I'll include it in this live chat too. If you would like to follow up with them with any additional questions that you may have, I encourage you guys to connect with them. If that's okay with you guys on LinkedIn. Sure. And send over those questions and keep the conversations going. Remember that your network is your net worth. So it's all about who you know. Leverage this opportunity, especially since you have learned so much about them this evening, to continue that conversation and continue to connect with them. And on behalf of SCPA, Clifton, Michael, Monique, thank you so much for taking your time out this evening to share your knowledge and experience. We appreciate it beyond words. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Aubrey.
Thank you, Aubrey, for everything.
Thank you so much, Aubrey.
All right. See you out there in the field, guys.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Everybody take care. Have a great holiday.